What's up, everyone? This is Sheenapreneur, your favorite veteran, and I wanted to come to you all today to talk about the 5 industries that are really popular in government contracting. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Here on the Sheenapreneur channel, I share information about government contracting, veteran business content, and other business tips. Top 5 categories that the government typically buys services for, and so this is leaning more toward the federal side. So if you think about the federal government, it's usually going to include like Department of Defense. It's going to include contracts that are overseas. So keep that in mind when I give you this list of the top 5. They're not really top 5. They're just like the 5 most popular because there are varying differences between all of these contracts depending on where you go in the world and depending on what agency you're talking about. So one of the categories is consulting. Now, a lot of people come to me and ask about consulting and being a middleman. This ain't that. Like, the government usually needs consulting when they are trying to do something new or they're trying to fix something that is already in place. Like, they're looking for consulting services, and it usually incorporates something else. Like, it usually is, we need to figure out how to expand our IT department. So it'll be IT consulting with the infrastructure build. So it's not just like you're consulting, meaning you're being a middleman or you're doing a pass-through or you're the person who connects another person. It's usually like consulting with a service. So just be clear that consulting is high only because it usually is incorporated with other services. The next thing is going to be, I got my notes over here. The next thing is going to be IT. Of course, we know information technology is just, this is where we're going. This is where we are now, and it's only going to get bigger from here. And if you include cyber into that category, then absolutely that is something that the government is always looking to be the number 1 in, or at least the number 2 after China. But something that the government is always looking to increase and expand, even though sometimes the government goes really slow when it comes to adopting IT. There's very good reason for that because they don't want to jump on the newest technology and then it ends up being something that is breached or dangerous for troops. So the government has reason sometimes of why they don't want to jump on the newest technology and that they are slow to adapt. But believe that the government is always looking for the newest, especially when it comes to weaponry and some of that technology. They're always looking to expand that and how to check on the enemy. I want to make sure that I'm not saying anything wrong. And using the latest technology and doing that. The next thing is going to be construction. Construction is huge. Of course, we know with the Biden infrastructure bill that has only increased the amount of construction that is being done around the world, or around the country at least, but that also means around the world. I have a few associates that do construction outside of the country, outside of the U.S., and it's a huge market. And it's so multi-layered. It could be anything from you building a building from the ground up all the way to construction cleanup, which is like you have construction where you're actually building the building and then everything that's cleaning up the building or cleaning up the outside of a building or a construction grounds. So it could be anything in between. I even had an associate come to me and ask if I could do, they had a construction project. It rained really hard and they needed someone to scoop the water. So crazy. Scoop the water out of this built elevator shaft because they were trying to build an elevator. It rained, so construction stopped, and they needed someone to scoop the water out of that hole, essentially. And so that was just a really different thing to think of but it's still considered a part of construction. It may not always be written out in a contract, oh, we need you to scoop out water, but that's just sometimes a part of a construction project that either you may not think of or the agency definitely would not think of, or depending on where you are. Like this particular project was in Florida. It rains a lot in Florida, but you may not have the same issue in, I don't know, South Dakota. I don't know if it rains a lot in South Dakota, but I think it doesn't rain a lot in like Kansas or something like that. So you may not have that same issue, but just knowing that, okay, in this particular state, there may be some restrictions or maybe some hindrances when it comes to building construction, but that's one of the biggest things that the government is looking for. And that kind of pairs with consulting as well. The government may ask you to be a construction management consultant. I see that a lot. Is usually incorporated with a service. Another thing is facilities. Now, facilities is kind of construction, but not really, because that is my industry. I do not have a GC license, which is a general contractor's license. There's some states that do not require a GC license to even do heavy construction, but in Georgia, you are required to have a GC license to do heavy construction. But we do facility maintenance, facility support services, facility management, whatever you want to call it, and it's usually taking care of the inside and the outside of a building. So it usually incorporates grounds maintenance, floor repair, roof repair, drywall, painting, janitorial, custodial. All those things fall under facility maintenance, but it's not necessarily construction. And I learned that the hard way when I tried to go for a really big construction project.
But they're like, boo-boo, you do facilities. You don't really do heavy construction.
So that's just something to keep in mind, that they are kind of separate. The next thing would be security. So, of course, if we're thinking about the Department of Defense, if we're thinking about some of these other heavy agencies like DLA, which is Defense Logistics Agency, they may have a more need for security compared to like the Department of Interior. They may not need as much. And I actually don't get a lot of people asking me about security contracts, but there are security contracts that are required, because if you think about anyone who's been in the military or anyone who's been a contractor overseas, you know, when you go onto a military base, they have the people that are standing at the guard shack that check your ID. Some locations they're standing there with weapons. Those are security guards that are contracted. And anywhere else, if you think about a courthouse, that's at the state level, where, and I know I'm talking more about federal, but as far as the state level, there is a contract company typically that comes in and provides those security guards for like a courthouse or another federal building. It's usually not employees of a particular agency that's within that building. It's usually a contract company that provides the security officers, and they have their own parameters of what that particular group of security officers are going to need. So if it's a federal building, they usually need background checks and all these other things, because they're going to be carrying weapons. And then lower tier locations, they may not require weapons, so there's going to be a lower tier of background checks needed and required and all those things. So those are the top 5: consulting, IT, construction, facilities, security. There also was engineering in there. That kind of goes with construction a little bit. So just thinking about what industry that you are working in, or industry that you want to work in, or someone that you know and you want to put them on government contracting. Those are the 5 industries that the government pays the most. There are a lot of agencies that are really large companies that do a lot of these services already and have been doing them for a million years. And they're sometimes looking for subcontractors to come in and work with them to provide these services, because they either can't be everywhere or they want to do a mentor protege program with you. And so that's a good opportunity to say, hey, I got a small security company of like 2-3 guys. And then you connect with like Lockheed Martin, and they're looking for a small company, whether you're a woman-owned or a veteran-owned or a hub-owned or any of these other things. And you can partner with those large companies who already have the contract in order to get past performance and in order to, you know, build your company. So I wanted to go ahead and give you those 5, like the main things that the government buys. Those are the 5. Again, they're consulting, IT, construction, facilities, and security. So from your favorite veteran, Sheenapreneur, remember that I have a course that teaches you how to set up your business if you're not already set up. Learn about federal government contracting, learn about corporate contracting, learn about state and local contracting. And of course, I always have something for my veterans, some of the things that I have gone through, some of the things that I deal with when it comes to entrepreneurship, some of the programs that I participated in. Until next time.